A stiffness that wasn't there last year. A heaviness right behind your knees, like your legs took longer to wake up than the rest of you did. You sit on the edge of the bed for a moment, just a moment. You tell yourself, it's nothing, just sleep, just age, just one of those mornings. You wake up. For a second, everything feels normal. The room is quiet, the light through the curtains is soft, and then you move your legs. That's when you feel it.
As you get older, your legs weaken first, long before you feel it. And this leads to a loss of control, a loss of balance, and for too many people, a devastating fall, which is the #1 cause of traumatic death in the elderly. But it doesn't have to be that way. You can turn it around with simple lifestyle changes. Hello, health champions.
Here's the question that's been sitting quietly in the back of your mind for months now, maybe longer. What if it's not nothing? What if the way your legs feel first thing in the morning is actually trying to tell you something? Most people brush right past this moment. They get up, they get moving, and by the time they're standing at the kitchen counter, the stiffness has faded into the background of the day. Out of sight, out of mind, but your body doesn't forget. It just waits. Before we go any further, I want to ask you something. Just a quick one. Are you over 60? Yes or no? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one, and I want to know who's watching this morning. Now, here's what I want you to think about for a second. There's a window, a short one, the first hour after you wake up. And what happens during that hour, what you do, what you eat, even what you don't do, may matter more for your legs than almost anything else you do all day.
But there's so many videos out there whose advice is just superficial, random, and misleading. The people making those videos don't really understand health, so they're grasping at straws. They're talking about single nutrient solutions, such as they say sweet potato has potassium, and potassium is important for signaling, so therefore you should eat sweet potato.
All day. Most people get this hour completely backwards. They skip it, they rush through it, coffee maybe, a quick shower, out the door. And the legs just have to keep up. But your legs aren't just along for the ride. They're the largest muscle group in your entire body. They're what gets you up off the couch, what keeps you steady on the stairs, what lets you chase after a grandchild in the backyard without a second thought. And quietly, for a lot of people, that steadiness starts slipping. Not all at once, not with any warning bells, just a little less each year, a little more effort to stand up from a chair, a little more caution on the stairs, a little more, I'll just sit this one out. Here's the thing nobody tells you. That slow slide isn't just getting older. There's actually a name for it. And more importantly, there are things you can do about it starting tomorrow morning that genuinely seem to make a difference for a lot of people. Not a pill, not a gadget, not anything complicated, just a different way of starting your day. In the next few minutes, I'm going to walk you through what's actually happening inside your body overnight. Something most people have never even heard of. I'll show you the habits that quietly work against your legs every single morning without you realizing it. And then I'll give you a simple, practical routine that many people find genuinely helps them feel steadier, stronger, and more in control of their own mobility. But first, you need to understand what's really going on while you sleep. Because what happens in those overnight hours sets the stage for everything else. And once you see it, really see it, you'll never look at your morning routine the same way again. Continuing in the same first-person narrator voice from Chapter 1, with the agreed general wellness framing. No fictional doctor, no invented studies. So, what actually happens overnight? Let's slow down for a second because this part matters. While you sleep, your body doesn't just shut off. It keeps working, breathing, repairing, maintaining. And to do all of that, it needs fuel. Here's the catch. For 7, 8, sometimes 9 hours, you're not eating anything. No fuel coming in. So your body has to get that energy from somewhere else. And one of the places it can pull from, muscle tissue. Especially in the legs, since that's where so much of your muscle mass actually lives. Now, this isn't some rare, dramatic event. It's a normal part of how the body works. But here's where it gets interesting. For younger people, this isn't usually a big deal. Their bodies bounce back quickly. They build muscle back almost as fast as they lose it overnight. But somewhere around our 60s and 70s, that balance starts to shift. Recovery slows down. And if mornings are rushed, or breakfast gets skipped, or that first meal doesn't have what the body actually needs, That overnight muscle breakdown doesn't get balanced out the way it
Sweet
used
potato.
to.
And they're talking about causes of leg weakness without understanding what that is. So they say sarcopenia is a condition that causes muscle loss. No, sarco is muscle and penia is weakness or lack thereof. So that word only says that it is muscle loss or muscle weakness. It doesn't cause it, it's just describing the condition. And
think of it like a bucket with a slow leak. One night, it's nothing. But night after night, year after year, that slow leak adds up. There's actually a name for this gradual process. Doctors call it age-related muscle loss. And one of the terms you might hear is sarcopenia. It's incredibly common. And here's the part that catches most people off guard. It doesn't hurt. There's no sharp pain, no moment where your body sends up a flare and says, hey, pay attention. It's quiet, it's gradual. And because it's quiet, it's incredibly easy to miss. You don't wake up one day and suddenly can't get out of a chair. It's much smaller than that. It's needing to use your arms to push yourself up when you didn't used to. It's holding the railing a little tighter on the stairs. It's that walk around the block feeling just a bit longer than it used to. None of these things on their own seem like much. But here's what I want you to sit with for a moment. Your legs aren't just for walking. They're connected to your balance, your circulation, even how steady you feel standing still. When leg strength quietly declines, it doesn't just affect your legs. It touches almost everything about how confident and steady you feel moving through your day. And that brings us to something most people get completely wrong. Something that, without realizing it, might actually be making this whole process worse. Not because of anything dramatic, because of something most of us do every single morning without thinking twice. Here's where I want you to be honest with yourself for a second. No judgment, just honesty. What does your typical morning actually look like? For a lot of people, it goes something like this. The alarm goes off. There's no time to waste. Maybe a quick coffee. Maybe nothing at all until later in the morning. I'll eat when I get hungry, we tell ourselves. It feels harmless. It feels like just how mornings go. But remember what we just talked about. That overnight window where the body may be pulling energy from muscle. If breakfast gets pushed back, or skipped, or replaced with just coffee on an empty stomach, that window stretches even longer. And here's the part that surprises people the most. Many of us assume that if something were really wrong, we'd feel it. Pain, discomfort, some kind of signal. But muscle doesn't really work that way. The signals it sends are subtle, easy to explain away, easy to blame on just getting older, or just a rough night's sleep, or just not as young as I used to be. I want to share something with you. Not a clinical case, just a story that reflects what a lot of people seem to experience. Picture someone in their late 60s, active, used to long walks, gardening, keeping busy. Lately though, mornings have felt different, stiffer, slower, a little more effort just to get going. One morning, while reaching for something on a low shelf, there's a stumble. Nothing serious, no injury, but it's startling, enough to make someone pause and think, when did that become harder than it used to be? That moment often becomes a turning point, not because anything dramatic happened, but because it made someone start paying attention to what their mornings actually looked like. And what a lot of people find when they start paying attention is exactly what we just talked about. Mornings built around rushing, skipping, or just coffee. Nothing in that first hour that actually supports the muscles doing so much of the work. Here's the good news, and I mean this. This is one of those things that responds really well to small, consistent changes. Not drastic ones, not complicated ones. In the next part, I want to walk you through the specific foods and habits that many people find genuinely helpful for supporting leg strength, easing those nighttime cramps, and just generally feeling steadier on their feet. Some of these might surprise you, not because they're exotic or expensive, but because they've probably been sitting in your kitchen this whole time. Let's get into it. 5 things worth considering for your morning routine and why they matter. First, eggs. If there's one food that comes up again and again in conversations about supporting muscle as we age, it's
lymph
eggs.
through your body. Now, there are 2 not surprising ways to increase muscle growth. You already know this. High-intensity exercise and the consumption of protein. You're not going to grow muscles on a vegan burger, okay, or a plant-based burger. It's not going to happen. You need the best source of protein, and that would be animal protein. Steak and eggs are at the top
It's
of the
eggs.
list.
They contain a wide range of amino acids, which are essentially the building blocks your muscles use for repair and maintenance. The yolk in particular tends to get overlooked, but it's where a lot of the useful nutrients live, including vitamin D and B12, both of which play a role in how your nerves and muscles communicate with each other. A couple of eggs in the morning, prepared however you like, whether boiled, scrambled with some vegetables, however suits you, is a simple way to give your body something to work with first thing in the day. Second, oatmeal with chia seeds. While eggs provide a strong foundation, oatmeal offers something different, a slow, steady release of energy throughout the morning, which can help avoid that mid-morning slump that sometimes shows up as fatigue or heaviness in the legs. Chia seeds add something extra here too. They're a source of magnesium, which is often associated with muscle relaxation, and may help with those nighttime leg cramps that a lot of people deal with as they get older. A simple bowl of oats with a spoonful of chia seeds stirred in, maybe some fruit on top, is an easy, affordable option that's easy to keep in rotation. Third, bananas. Bananas are well known for their potassium content, and potassium plays an important role in how your muscles contract and relax. Low potassium is often mentioned in connection with muscle cramps and that twitchy, restless feeling some people get in their legs at night. One note here: if you're managing diabetes or kidney concerns, it's worth talking to your doctor about how much potassium fits into your routine, since everyone's situation is a little different. For most people though, a banana in the morning, maybe alongside that bowl of oatmeal, is an easy, natural way to support this. Fourth, Greek yogurt. Greek yogurt stands out because of its protein content. Compared to regular yogurt, it tends to have significantly more protein per serving, which can be especially useful in the morning when your body may be looking to rebuild after that overnight stretch without food. It's also a source of calcium, which supports bone health, something that often goes hand in hand with muscle health as we age. A bowl of plain Greek yogurt with some berries or a sprinkle of cinnamon is a simple way to bring this into your morning. And fifth, fatty fish. This one might not seem like a typical breakfast food, but it's worth mentioning. Fish like salmon, mackerel, or sardines are good sources of omega-3 fatty acids, which are often associated with reducing inflammation in the body. Inflammation, over time, can play a role in how muscles recover and maintain themselves. So even having fatty fish a couple of times a week, whether at breakfast or another meal, may be a helpful piece of the bigger picture. None of these foods, on their own, are some kind of magic fix, but together, as part of a regular morning routine, many people find they genuinely start to notice a difference. Less stiffness, steadier mornings, a little more confidence getting up and moving. And food is really only half of it. There's a second piece to this, something that takes just a few minutes, costs nothing, and might be just as important as what's on your plate. So, here's how it all comes together. A simple morning routine built around a few small habits. When you wake up, before anything else, try drinking a glass of water. Some people like to add a small pinch of salt, which can help with hydration and may support circulation first thing in the morning. Next, before you even get out of bed, take a moment. Sit up slowly. Rotate your ankles and wrists a few times. This gentle movement helps wake up your circulation gradually, rather than asking your body to go from completely still to fully upright in just a few seconds. If you're able to, spend a few minutes outside in natural morning light. This is often linked to vitamin D, which plays a role in bone and muscle health, and it's also just a nice way to start the day. And then, breakfast. Whichever of the foods we talked about appeal to you, whether that's eggs, oatmeal with chia seeds, a banana, Greek yogurt, or working in some fatty fish a few times a week, try to have something within that first hour or so of waking up. Even something small is better than nothing at all. None of this requires a complete overhaul of your life. Just a few small shifts, repeated consistently, day after day. Now, before I wrap up, I want to say something to anyone watching this, not just for themselves, but for a parent, a spouse, or someone they care about. If you've noticed someone you love moving a little slower lately, holding on to furniture a bit more, or mentioning leg cramps at night, this might be worth gently bringing up with them. Sometimes the people closest to us are the last to notice these small changes in themselves. At the end of the day, your legs carry you through everything.
Muscle. Now, you have
Every
about
walk,
650 muscles in your body, and I'm talking mainly the skeletal muscles, not into the other muscles. But the purpose of muscle is to create movement, to help you with posture, to help you even with your metabolism. If you don't have enough muscle mass, let's say you're getting older and you lose your muscle, you lose your metabolism too. So you have a lot of mitochondria that helps you burn fat in your muscle. And then also muscle helps pump the lymphatic system. And so if you don't move a lot, you're not going to pump your lymph
through
through
everything.
your body. Now,
Every
there are
walk, every set of stairs, every moment of independence you might not even think twice about. Taking a little time each morning to support them isn't about chasing some dramatic transformation. It's about giving yourself the best chance at feeling steady, capable, and confident for as long as possible. If this video gave you something useful, I'd love for you to subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. And down in the comments, let me know which of these morning habits are you going to try first. Because next time, we're going deeper into something that ties directly into everything we talked about today. We're going to look at the specific signs and how someone walks, things like the length of their stride or how they get up from a chair, that experts say can reveal a lot about what's happening with their muscles, long before anything feels seriously wrong. If you've ever wondered whether the way you move says more than you realize, you won't want to miss it. Additional section in Weigib's board, erster myths most people believe about aging legs. Before we get to the routine, I want to clear something up, because there are a few things almost everyone believes about aging in the legs, and most of them aren't quite right. Let's start with the biggest one. If it's just aging, there's nothing you can do about it. This is probably the most common belief out there, and it makes sense, doesn't it? Aging feels permanent, fixed, like something happening to you, not something you have any say in. But here's the thing. A lot of what people chalk up to just getting older actually has more to do with activity levels, nutrition, and daily habits than age itself. Two people can be the exact same age, same number of birthdays, and yet one struggles to get up from a low chair, while the other is out gardening for hours without a second thought. The difference usually isn't genetics. It's not luck either. It's the small things, repeated daily, for years. Here's myth number 2. If my legs hurt, that's a sign I should rest them. Now, I want to be careful here, because if you're dealing with an injury or a sudden sharp pain, that's something to bring up with a doctor. Always. But for the kind of stiffness and heaviness we've been talking about, the gentle, gradual kind, rest isn't always the answer people think it is. Movement, even small amounts, tends to help circulation. It helps muscles stay engaged. Sitting for long periods, on the other hand, can sometimes make that morning stiffness worse, not better. So, the legs that feel a little stiff in the morning, they're often asking for gentle movement, not less of it. Myth number 3, and this one surprises a lot of people. Muscle loss only matters for athletes or bodybuilders. I think a lot of us hear muscle and picture gyms, weights, people training for competitions. It can feel like a topic that doesn't apply to regular everyday life. But muscle isn't just about strength in the way we usually think about it. It's about function. It's what lets you carry groceries up a flight of stairs. What lets you get up off the floor if you're playing with a grandchild. What keeps you steady when you step off a curb without looking. None of that requires anyone to be an athlete. It just requires the muscles to be there, doing their job quietly, in the background of everyday life. And here's myth number 4, maybe the sneakiest one of all. I'd know if something were wrong. We touched on this earlier, but it's worth repeating because it's so easy to assume our bodies will give us a clear signal when something needs attention. But muscle, much like a lot of things related to aging, tends to change gradually. There's rarely one single moment where everything shifts. Instead, it's a slow drift. A little less strength this year than last year, a little more caution on stairs, a little more reliance on furniture or railings. And because each individual change is so small, it's easy to adjust without even noticing you're adjusting. This is part of why those small morning habits matter so much. Not because they're dramatic, but because they're one of the few things that can help counter a process that's otherwise easy to miss entirely. A few signs worth paying attention. 2. I'm not going to give you a checklist of symptoms here, because that's not really what this is about. But I do want to mention a few things that if you notice them, might be worth paying a little closer attention to, especially over time. One is needing to use your hands or arms to push yourself up from a seated position, when that wasn't something you used to think about. Another is feeling like your balance is slightly less steady than it used to be, even in small ways. Maybe standing on one leg to put on a shoe feels a little wobblier than it once did. A third is those nighttime cramps we mentioned earlier. They're common and often harmless on their own, but they can also be a signal that something in your routine, hydration, minerals, activity levels might be worth adjusting. And the last one is simply this. If walking distances that used to feel easy now feel like more of an effort, that's worth noticing. Not panicking about, just noticing. None of these on their own means something is seriously wrong, but together, they can paint a picture. And that picture is often the same one we've been talking about this whole video. The good news, again, is that this is exactly the kind of thing that tends to respond well to small, consistent changes. The earlier you start paying attention, the more those small changes tend to add up. One more thing before we get to the routine. I want to leave you with one more thought before we move into the practical part of this. A lot of people wait for some kind of sign before they make changes to their routine. They wait until something feels really wrong before they decide it's worth doing anything about. But here's what I've come to believe after looking into all of this. The best time to start isn't when something feels wrong, it's now. While things still feel manageable, while small changes can still make a meaningful difference, rather than playing catch-up later. Your legs have carried you through your entire life so far. Every walk, every set of stairs, every time you've stood up without thinking twice about it. They deserve a little attention back. So, with that in mind, let's talk about exactly what the morning routine looks like and how you can start building it into your day, starting tomorrow.